My son, keep your father's commandments, and do not forsake the Torah of your mother. Bind them to your heart forever, tie them around your neck.
Well, Shabbat Shalom, you all. This is part 2 of When Will the Great Tribulation Begin? Last Sabbath we left off with some things that are currently happening or currently scheduled to happen. Apophis, which Tom Horn, the author Tom Horn, said is wormwood and is scheduled to impact the earth in the Pacific Ocean on April the 13th, 2029. It's 3.5 years from this fall, the Feast of Tabernacles, almost to the day, 3.5 years. It will create the greatest devastation to this earth since the worldwide flood of Noah's time. Apophis refers to an ancient Egyptian deity symbolizing chaos and is often depicted as a serpent. And NASA is the one that chose that particular name. Wormwood is what the Bible says, if indeed this is wormwood, and I would assume it will be. Of course, NASA said that it's not going to hit the earth, it's going to skim by the earth. But there have been several scientists, and I went over this last Sabbath, that say that their calculations are deliberately wrong. They believe that it's going to hit the earth. But anyway, that gives you some of the statistics about that. It's a huge thing. I mean, it's 1/4 mile long and 560 feet wide, traveling at a speed 28,000 miles per hour. Equivalent, when it hits, the equivalent to about 65,000 nuclear bombs going off simultaneously. It's hard to imagine that, is it not? But that's what wormwood is actually going to do when it does hit. You know, it's described here in Revelation chapter 8. The first, talking about the first angel sounded. These are the trumpet judgments. The first angel sounded, and there followed hail and fire mixed with blood, and they were thrown to the earth. 1/3 of the earth was burnt up, 1/3 of the trees were burnt up, and all green grass was burnt up. The second angel sounded, and something like a great mountain burning with fire was thrown into the sea. 1/3 of the sea became blood, 1/3 of the living creatures which were in the sea died, and 1/3 of the ships were destroyed. And the third angel sounded, and a great star fell out from the sky, burning like a torch, and it fell on 1/3 of the rivers and on the springs of the waters. The name of the star is called wormwood. 1/3 of the waters became wormwood. Many people died from the waters because they were made bitter. The fourth angel sounded, and 1/3 of the sun was struck, and 1/3 of the moon, 1/3 of the stars, so that 1/3 of them would be darkened, and the day would not shine for 1/3 of it, and the night in the same way. You know, when you look at this prophecy here, there's 4 angels that are involved in this particular one. It really appears like they're closely tied together, at least in my estimation. It's going to be a dreadful time when the trumpet judgments sound during the Great Tribulation. It'll be a very, very dreadful time, a very great time for you and I to be increasing our faith and leaning hard on the arm of Yahweh, encouraging one another. It's going to be vital that we do that. Millions upon millions of people will be dying. Wherever this hits, you know, Tom Horn said that he saw in his vision, he saw it hitting in the Pacific Ocean. He didn't say how far off of the coast of California or Washington State that would be. But it's going to cause tsunamis, it's going to cause volcanoes to erupt, it's going to cause earthquakes. And the ash cloud, as you can imagine, is going to be darkening much of the sky. Like it says here, it's going to be 1/3. It's going to travel, that ash cloud is going to travel around the earth. The tsunamis are going to be devastating the coastlines. I would assume all the coastlines that are in what we call the Pacific Rim. Are we immune from that here? I don't know. Because, you know, if we die, we know where we're going, right? That's the most important thing. Drinking water is going to become scarce. And if we are still here, we're going to have to rely upon Yahweh even for our breath, for our food, our drink, and our overall safety. But you know, just like Yahweh kept Noah and his family safe, he will keep his commandment keepers safe. Now, the critical thing is that it's not just because someone has said, Jesus, come into my heart and save me. They have to be a commandment keeper, have to be loyal and obedient to the commandments of Yahweh, the law that is written in their hearts. And he will be protecting those people. How much is the protection going to be? I don't know. I don't know. But there's going to be a certain degree of protection. Last Sabbath, the question also I posed was, who is the God of Freemasonry? And according to their own writings, Yah-Bulan, way you pronounce it, which means Yah and Baal and strength. And it's a word that's used in some of the rituals of Freemasonry. And you can see the mixture here of Yah's name along with Baal, who is the sun god. Wickedness of that. We also saw last week that Freemasonry has had much influence in this United States of America. Washington, D.C. was totally designed by a Freemason. The entire layout holds symbolism that are distinct to Freemasonry. 14 United States presidents have been Freemasons, including George Washington, Andrew Jackson, and Harry Truman. And today I want to show you two things, and I'm probably only going to get to one, but I want to start out anyway, to try to show you two things. The current level of Freemasonry within our government. It's insidious. It's been hijacked. Our entire country has been hijacked by Freemasonry. Freemasonry in America started back in 1733. There was a Freemason lodge that started in Boston during that year, and it spread across all of the colonies. Of the founding fathers, many of them were Masons. And our founding fathers shaped this country's government. It's shaped according to the values and according to the edicts of Freemasonry. It's ironical that those men felt that they had to go to a secret society to find values necessary to found America rather than to the word of Yahweh. Isn't that ironical? And many of them claim to be Christian. And many of them claim to be deists, which is they believe in God. At least they believed in God. But you know, those founding fathers did not do like the Pilgrims did. The Pilgrims relied upon Yahweh. They went to the word of Yahweh for direction. And our founding fathers went to Freemasonry. You see the contrast, the sad contrast. It's also ironical that almost every Protestant denomination has church members that are Masons, with the exception of the Roman Catholic Church. Officially, the Roman Catholic Church does not permit its members to be Freemasons. 9 of the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence were Masons, and that influence grew as our nation developed. 13 of the 39 Constitution signers were Freemasons. 1/3 of the United States presidents have been Freemasons. In 1923, out of 435 members of Congress, 300 were Freemasons. Is that not astounding? 300 out of 435, 69%. Of that, of the 48 members of the U.S. Senate at that time, 30 were Freemasons. Now, those numbers have allegedly dropped, been reduced. Part of that, though, is due to stealth. Freemasons are no longer as willing to declare their membership in that secret organization as they were at one point in time. They keep it hidden, and they lie about it. They're taught to lie about it. Freemasonry actually has as part of their mantra to lie and hide their memberships and the true values that they have. Is it a Christian organization? Absolutely no. It's no way, shape, or manner any kind of a Christian organization. And the people that become involved with it are snookered. They're deceived. The lower degrees of Freemasonry are nothing but deception. And that's absolutely spoken of in the books that they have. Albert Pike wrote a book about the creed and the dogma of that. And he talked about how they are too. They are absolutely taught to lie about various things of Freemasonry. Many Washington, D.C. politicians declined to openly state their Masonic affiliation. Back in 1962, there's a Masonic Scottish Rite publication. Scottish Rite, by the way, is part of Freemasonry. And there's a magazine called the New Age magazine, still around. And here's an article that was in there. It said this: that a man is a Mason is something only another Mason can know. And the secret of the Master Mason can be simply and subtly communicated amongst eavesdroppers without the slightest awareness of non-Masons. In other words, they will exchange secret signs either through words or certain hand positions that no one else would even be aware of. I'm not a Mason, never have been, and I never will be. My allegiance is to Yahweh only. It's not to any other institution or even a country. It's to Yahweh. It is part of the continuing and ancient charm. Call it charm? I don't think so, but they did. Part of the continuing and ancient charm of the age-old rituals and rites. Masons set the basic policies of our society. Do you see that statement? Yet the order is not political, and its purposes are not public. It is religious. Freemasonry is a religion. I hope that sinks into each one of us. So, Albert Pike, the man you see in that picture on the right, he lived about 40 miles west of here. Probably about 10 or 15 miles from you all, Gary. And he made this statement: that which we must say to the crowd, in other words, the public things, is we worship a God, but it is a God that you adore without superstition. To you, Grand Master, inspectors, to you, Grand Sovereign, I'll get it here in a minute. To you, Sovereign Grand Inspectors General, we say this: that you may repeat it to the brethren of the 32nd and 31st and 30th degrees. The Masonic religion should be, by all of us initiates of the high degrees, maintained in the purity of the Luciferian doctrine. If Lucifer were not God, would Adonai, Jesus, calumniate or spread false and harmful statements about him? Yes, Lucifer is God. Now that is the mantra of Freemasonry. That is the underlying God of Freemasonry. Lucifer, who is known as in the scripture as now Satan, the devil. He is the God of Freemasonry. Albert Pike said it. He also has made this statement. The apocalypse, the book of Revelation, is to those who receive the 19th degree the apotheosis of that sublime faith which aspires to God alone and despises all the pomps and works of Lucifer. All right, now he's making a sarcastic statement here. He's saying that the book of the Revelation, to those that are in the 19th degree or above, is the apotheosis. What is the apotheosis? If when you, in Washington, D.C., in the Capitol building, called the Rotunda, and in the dome of the Rotunda, I don't have a picture of it here, there's a painting, a fresco that covers the entire dome. And it shows pagan gods and goddesses. And in the center of that is our very first president, George Washington. And the title of that painting is called The Apotheosis of George Washington. Apotheosis means to elevate someone to the level of being a god, a false god, a pagan god. Okay? And so when he says the apotheosis, or elevating something to the level of God, of that sublime faith which aspires to God alone, despises all the pomps and works of Lucifer. Lucifer, the light bearer, strange and mysterious name to give to the spirit of darkness. Lucifer, the son of the morning. Is it he who bears the light, and with its splendors intolerable, blinds feeble, sensual, or selfish souls? Doubt it not, for traditions are full of divine revelations and inspirations. And inspiration is not of one age, nor of one creed. Plato and Philo also were inspired. Oh, really? He's elevating, first of all, he's saying Lucifer is the God of the universe. He's a created being, is he not? And then he says here that Philo and Plato, their writings were also inspired. Like on the level of the word of Yahweh, are you serious? And yes, that's what he said. There is nothing that's on the level of the Bible as we have it. Nothing. Any other words are false words. Or when someone says that they are inspired. The same magazine, and by that way, that's that book, Morals and Dogma, the name that slipped my mind a moment ago. That's a book that he wrote. He wrote that back, and by the way, in the 1800s. There's some other things that he did. You know, I went down I'll use the terminology, a rabbit hole on this in preparing this. I said I wanted to get to 2 points. I'm not going to get to 2 points. I'll tell you that right now. It's going to be the first point only that I had mentioned. Next point will have to be next Sabbath, Yahweh willing. But sometimes you go down a rabbit hole and you find a snake. And that's what it is in this rabbit hole. It's the serpent. Same magazine, New Age magazine, said this. They estimated that between 1 in 5 and 1 in 10 of the adult thinking population, whatever that means, come directly within the circle of Masonic influence. This nation, the United States, was nurtured on the ideals of Freemasonry. Most of those who are today its leaders are also members and leaders of the craft. Now that's what they call Masonry, the craft. All right? They know that our American democracy, with its emphasis on the inalienable rights and liberties of the individual, is Freemasonry in government. Is that shocking to some of you? To see how deeply embedded Freemasonry and the principles of Freemasonry are? Here's some more shocking statements. Here's what they say. Any teaching, talking about in government, any teaching which is completely antagonistic to all that we, not us, them, okay, Freemasons, all that we consider sacred in religion, in morals, and in government is subversive to those fundamentals and on them we depend for our very existence as a craft. Our first duty, therefore, becomes one of self-preservation, which includes defense of those principles for which we stand and by which we live. This duty cannot be discharged by complete silence on the subject. And with this view, it is encouraging to note is today shared by most of those who speak Masonically in the United States. That last quotation is pretty important. Those in Freemasonry will oppose any teaching that they consider to be contradictory to their beliefs. Their secret society has beliefs that you and I'll be exploring this as we go on and even next week, but they have beliefs and goals for this country that will shake you to your core. And some of those things they intend to put into motion this year. And that's been predicted and prophesied for centuries, literally centuries. And 2025 is the year that they plan on doing that. Freemasonry is a religion, and whatever teaching that they think is antagonistic to their religious beliefs must be counteracted and defended against. Freemasons have infiltrated every level of government and religion. As I stated a few minutes ago, the Roman Catholic Church does not consider Freemasonry to be compatible with Roman Catholicism. Now that's interesting. I wonder why. Let's look. Active membership in Freemasonry by a member of the faithful is forbidden, said the letter signed by the late Pope Francis. He just died a couple weeks ago. Pope Clement XII, back in 1738, strongly stated, all prudent and upright men have passed the same judgment on them, Freemasons as being depraved and perverted. Now, that's quite an accusation, isn't it? Pope Leo XIII in 1884 issued a papal bull or an edict stating, Freemasons plan the destruction of the Holy Church publicly and openly and hold to doctrines that contradict church teachings. Now, those are very strong accusations. What do they have to back them up? Well, there's some dark and sinister aspects of Freemasonry that they are referring to. They're not coming to the surface yet. Maybe we can explore some of that. Most of Protestantism appears to accept Freemasons into their congregations. I do not. If I were to find out that there was a Freemason that was attending here, I would ask them to leave. I'll be honest with you. I would ask them to leave. This is not a place for Freemasons. This is a place for the saints of Yahweh to receive edification and to further and grow our faith in Yahweh. Excuse me. We've seen how Freemasons are fully integrated into all levels of our government and our judiciary. So what is the goal of Freemasonry, or goals? Is it all about the Scottish Rite Hospital for Children down in Texas? That's a good thing. I'm not against that. I'm not against that at all. Is it just goodwill? Well, remember one of their mantras that I went over here a while ago, any teaching in government which is completely antagonistic to all that we consider sacred in religion and morals and in government is subversive to those fundamentals. Does their definition of sacred line up with the Bible? No, absolutely not. Tom Horn stated this, with the presidency of Donald Trump, the United States is again on course of the grand plan to fulfill what Freemason Manly P. Hall described as the secret destiny of America. Now,
which
one of my
includes
grandfathers
future
was a stone
national
mason, but he
and
was
global
not a
subservience
a
to the
stone mason
God
in the sense
of
that he actually
Freemasonry.
built buildings and things
As you
with
saw in Albert
stones.
Pike's statement,
Most Americans are totally ignorant that when they recite the Pledge of Allegiance to one nation under God, that the God of Freemasonry is Lucifer. All 30, 31st, 32nd, and 33rd degree Masons understand that. President Trump declared on the day of his inauguration, "Our liberties and our nation's glorious destiny will no longer be denied, and we will immediately restore the integrity, competency, and loyalty of America's government. The journey to reclaim our republic has not been an easy one. Just a few months ago in a beautiful Pennsylvania field, an assassin's bullet ripped through my ear. But I felt then, and believe even more so now, that my life was saved for a reason. I was saved by God to make America great again." Now, we're aware of that, are we not? If you've ever looked at any of the news and watched the news or whatever, you're aware of what happened with at that time, President-elect Trump. Trump has many times referred to the new America golden age. Among other things, he means a period emphasizing economic growth, manufacturing resurgence, and national pride. Everyone likes to be proud of their country. An era is characterized by significant investments in various industries, job creation, and a focus on America First agenda. Now, some people may disagree with what I'm going to say and what I've said so far, but let's look at some facts. Facts speak for themselves, do they not? First thing I want to show you is a dollar bill. There's actually a picture of a dollar bill, not a dollar bill, okay? And you can't read the writing here, it's too small, I realize, but you can see the pyramid here. You're all probably familiar with that. You're familiar with the eye above it. It's called the all-seeing eye. That is a Masonic symbol. And it actually comes from the Rosicrucians, which predated the Masonics. It's been around for centuries. It is a satanic sign. Nothing Christian about it. Even and this is, by the way, called the seal, the Great Seal of the United States of America. This is a little bit blown up now. It's unfortunately, that's faded out over here. I'm sorry about that. But you can see the all-seeing eye. That's called the Eye of Horus. Horus is a pagan god in the Egyptian religion back several thousand years ago. Horus, called the Eye of Horus. The gods, the term when I use the term gods, I don't mean equal with Yahweh. They are all created beings, all right? But he refers to them several times in the Old Testament as gods or Elohim. If you read the Old Testament, and sometime if you want to find out about that, I will be glad to share with you about how that is. There's a council of the gods that he was over. He put certain angels over the 70 nations, the exception being Israel. He is over Israel. And yet he put these other created beings over the other nations in the world. And that's why we have all the wickedness going on, because they became turncoats. They turned their backs on Yahweh. They were influenced by Satan, their leader. On the left-hand side, you see out of many, one. On the right-hand side, and you can't read it there, but it says that he, talking about their God, the Masonic gods, he has blessed the undertaking of the American. They called it American experiment. The United States of America was called an experiment. And as a result of the Oracle of Delphi that goes way back over 2,500 years ago, the Oracle of Delphi, the oracle just means a prophetess. It's the prophetess of Delphi. Delphi was Apollo, the pagan god Apollo. And she, this prophetess, the Oracle of Delphi, made a prophecy back over 2,000 years ago that there was going to be somewhere to the west, because that was in the Greece and Turkey area where that location was. And there was going to be somewhere to the west, there was going to be a nation to rise up, and it would be the Golden Age. Ding, 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 ding. On the US dollar bill, with the two-sided Great Seal of the United States joined in the middle by, on the previous one there, it says, "In God we trust." What God is this referring to? Well, now you know that it's not the Creator, Yahweh. They were not referring to the Creator, Yahweh. Now, when I've recited the Pledge of Allegiance probably hundreds of times in my life. Put my hand over my heart and got it all memorized. I'm not going to quote it for you now because I don't believe in it. I no longer have allegiance. Oh, I have allegiance only to Yahweh, as I said a while ago. But the phrase is in there, in God. And we always assumed it was the Creator God, did we not? Yes, we did. And now you know Freemasonry does not hold to the Creator God, Yahweh. They hold to Lucifer. Albert Pike called him the light bearer. And he's in conflict with Yeshua. We have to understand that. The pyramid that's here, an Egyptian pyramid, and that eye on there. The eye, of course, like I've just said, is not referring to Yahweh. It's not an all-seeing eye of Yahweh. There's nowhere in the Bible where there's a phrase, an all-seeing eye. That is a phrase that's totally dedicated to the Masonic Lodge or the Freemasonry, all-seeing eye. Now, there's a scripture that says, the eyes of Yahweh go to and fro over the whole earth to see whose hearts are perfect toward Him. It's not an all-seeing eye, okay? Freemasonry designed the Great Seal. The seal was not designed by a Christian man. It was designed by a Mason. Albert Pike and many others venerated and revered the sun god, who is known by various names: Apollo, Osiris, Nimrod. You can see that symbolized on the Masonic aprons that they wear on their special occasions. There's much more. There's much more. I got some quotes from a website called freemasonscommunity.life. Freemasonry traces its origins back to the medieval stonemasons' guilds. These guilds were responsible for constructing many of Europe's most significant cathedrals and churches, and were made up of highly skilled craftsmen who possessed a deep understanding of geometry, architecture, and engineering. They also had access to sacred knowledge passed down through the generations, which they incorporated into their work, imbuing it with spiritual significance. That almost sounds innocent, doesn't it? Well, they speak also of their connection with the Knights Templar. If you ever watched what was the series of movies with the archaeologist?
Raiders of the Lost Ark?
Yes, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and that man, and he talked about the Knights Templar They were looking for the chalice in one of those, if you remember correctly. The Knights Templar was a medieval Christian, and I say Christian in the Roman Catholic sense, military order founded in 1119 to protect pilgrims traveling to the Holy Land. They were skilled warriors, and they played a crucial role in many significant battles in the Crusades. In 1307, King Philip IV of France accused the Templars of heresy and immorality, leading to their eventual arrest and dissolution of the order by Pope Clement V in 1312. Now, the Freemasons, for whatever reason, were impressed by the Templars' wealth of knowledge and their dedication to spiritual principles, so they incorporated many of their teachings into their own organizations. Now, this is from a Freemason website that I got this, okay? They incorporated many of the Templars' teaching into their own organization. These Templar teachings included the veneration of the sacred feminine, the quest for the Holy Grail, and the search for lost knowledge from lost civilizations. The Knights Templar played a significant role in shaping Freemasonry. What was this, from the previous slide, what was this particular immorality that the Templars were accused of by the Pope? You ready? They were accused of homosexuality. Why would the Freemasons welcome ties with an organization that had been accused and involved in homosexuality? What would be their reasoning for doing that? Just ignore it? Or did somehow they incorporate it? You tell me. These teachings from the Templars included veneration of the sacred feminine. The word veneration means reverence, to worship. So the Masons revere what they term the sacred feminine. It is symbolized with an inverted triangle or delta. A key symbol of the Masonic Lodge is its main emblem, an inverted triangle. This triangle is their symbol of the grand architect of the universe. Again, that's off a Masonic website. Inverted triangles originated from fertility cults, pagan cults, and it represents the female anatomy. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. The delta, a triangle is also called a delta, an inverted delta. You see on the dollar bill, the Masonic symbol, that's a delta. They use a pyramid, and actually two deltas, because the top of the pyramid is also another small pyramid. There's the all-seeing eye of Horus in a triangle. Another triangle made up of three triangles, inverted. And then, of course, the single inverted triangle. The delta and the inverted triangle are both associated with Freemasonry. An inverted triangle often signifies the sacred feminine divine. That's what they call it, the sacred feminine divine. A symbol of fertility and nurturing energy. Many pagan and Wiccan, that's a satanic group, Wicca. Many pagan and Wiccan traditions revere the inverted delta, associating it with a goddess and the womb. Clearly, it's not a Christian thing. The sacred feminine is a concept that recognizes that God is ultimately neither humanly male or female, but a divine essence beyond form and duality, an essence that is in balance and unification of masculine and feminine principles. The former Prime Minister of Germany, her name is Angela Merkel. Here's a picture of her displaying that sign. Is she making a secret of it? Not one bit. She appears to be pretty proud of it. Now, that's a sign she's displaying. There's no question about it. It's public. You can look it up. I got this off of Google. You can look it up, find it for yourself if you're interested. Donald Trump also displays the same sign. You can find dozens of pictures of him sitting in various interviews, sitting on the late night TV shows, you know, like all I can think of Johnny Carson, but Johnny Carson's long gone. But you know, the ones since Johnny Carson, all those shows. And he used to be invited to those shows back before he became president. And he'd always sit like this. He sits like this. I saw him in an interview just literally a few weeks ago, and he was sitting exactly like this. Whenever he sits down, that's what he does. Every time. He displays this Masonic sign, the sacred feminine, almost every time he sits down for an interview. Is it a habit, or is he invoking something? Eric Trump, during the inauguration, that's him right here, and his wife, I forget her name, she reproves him. She grabs his arm and tells him to stop doing it. Now watch carefully. See? She tells him to put his hands down. Why? She knows there's something connected with it, that she doesn't want it openly displayed. She wants it hidden. He wanted it displayed. The pagan god called Baphomet, B-A-P-H-O-M-E-T, represents this concept of God that is neither male nor female. In other words, transsexual. The Knights Templar worshipped this pagan thing. It represents transsexuality with both male and female features. You see, it's got breasts, and there's obviously a man also. And he got the hand pointing up, an identical sign pointing down. The equality of the equality of good and bad. How many of you are familiar with the yin-yang sign? That's the same thing, exact same thing. It's the equality of good and evil. Are good and evil equal? Of course not. Of course not. You and I have to stand for good. We can't be silent about things like this. I'm not, as you see. The Roman Catholic Church disbanded and imprisoned the Templars for worshiping this Baphomet and practicing homosexuality that this deity promotes. A few weeks ago, President Trump said that he and First Lady Melania Trump join in prayer with Christians celebrating the crucifixion and resurrection of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, the living Son of God who conquered death, freed us from sin, and unlocked the gates of heaven for all humanity. And by those words, we get the impression that this man is saved, do we not? At least you get the impression of that. Maybe he is, maybe he's not. I can't judge him. I can't judge his heart. No one can judge someone's heart. But we can look at his actions. We can look at his accomplishments and get a better idea. In 1983, Donald Trump designed what is known now as Trump Tower, located in New York City. Here are a few pictures of it. This is during the construction stage. It was authorized, and it is, 56 floors tall. Now keep that in mind, that number, 56 floors tall. Trump Tower is actually 10 floors shorter than Donald Trump says it is. Donald Trump lives in a penthouse when he stays in New York City, and he says that he lives on the 66th floor, occupies from 66 to 68. of his eponymous, that just means a building name for him. So why did he lie? I mean, if you don't tell the truth, it's a lie, isn't it? Why did he lie by saying that the building is 10 stories taller than it is, and then he says he lives on the 66th floor? Well, but he's a Christian, right? This is a picture looking up from the street level. Some things I want to show you that are in just above this little section right here that you'll be able to see. Trump Tower in its present form. These are literally trees in an inverted triangle, inverted delta, that are on the side of Trump Tower. There are 6 trees on each side of that triangle. Now, he designed this. This is no accident. He designed this from the very get-go. Has the inverted delta of the trees, each side total 6, and then on top of that there are 7 pillars that many people believe represent temples of Baal. Many references on the internet talking that this is a temple to Baal. That makes me shudder. I can't judge whether it is or not, but I'm just repeating what I've read. Donald Trump surrounds himself with purple and gold. There's a car there. It says Barron, his youngest son, Barron. In this Trump Tower on his floor, the top 3 floors of his building, which would actually be the it's 56 floors tall, so to be 54, 55, and 56, and not 66, 67, 68, right? He surrounds himself with gold. Now, he's a rich man. He's worth multiplied billions of dollars, so he can afford it. If he wants to have gold, he wants to have gold. That's fine. It's his deal, right? But he has carefully chosen purple and gold. And if you notice here, this is a Masonic apron in the lower left. And the colors of Masonry are purple and gold. During his campaign, back in 2016, when he was running for president in 2016, everyone that was on his campaign committee, and they were all, the men that were doing it, they all had on their lapel, they had an inverted triangle that was 2 colors. Want to take a guess what those colors were? Purple and gold. Inverted triangle. Every one of them is an inverted triangle, just like my hands are showing right there. All gold furnishings. Now, I read the other day, I don't know how accurate it is, I read the other day that he's wanting to make a lot of the things in the White House to be gold. In case you missed it, my point is this. From the get-go, Donald Trump has surrounded himself with Masonic symbolism. With his hands, he continually invokes the Masonic sign of an inverted triangle, represented the sacred feminine, according to Masonic literature. If it looks like a duck, and it walks like a duck, and quacks like a duck, it's most likely a duck. I believe the evidence shows that President Donald Trump is a Freemason. He says, "I am the chosen one." I'm quoting him. That's what he says. I am the chosen one. President Trump also has a fixation with Apollo. There are paintings above his fireplace mantle in Trump Tower and also on his ceiling. You can't make it out there, but there's a painting there of Apollo, the pagan god Apollo, and then here in the ceiling, and he's driving a chariot. Again, you can't hardly make it out, but it shows Apollo driving a chariot across the heavens, across the sky. That's what Donald Trump has in Trump Tower. Apollo is the god of light and the sun. And in the Bible, the name is actually written, and it means the destroyer. Apollyon. We'll look at that. Chapter 9 in Revelation. So the fifth angel trumpeted, and I saw a star that had fallen out of the sky to the earth, and to him was given the key to the shaft of the abyss. So he opened the shaft of the abyss, and smoke went up out of the shaft like the smoke of a burning furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened because of the smoke from the shaft, and locusts exited from the smoke of into the earth. And to them was given a capability, just like the scorpions of the earth have capability. And going down to verse 5, and it was designated to them, talking about the locusts, not to kill them, men, but to torment them 5 months. And their torment is like the torment of a scorpion whenever it strikes a person. And in those days the people will seek death, but not find it. They will want to die, but death will run away from them. Now the appearance of the locusts was like horses prepared for battle, and something like a golden crown was on their heads. And their faces were like human faces. They had hair like a woman's, and their teeth were like lions. They had breastplates like breastplates of iron, and the noise of their wings was like the noise of many chariots with horses rushing into battle. And they have tails like scorpions, and stingers precisely in those tails. They have the capability to hurt the populace 5 months, having as king over them the angel of the abyss. His name in Hebrew is Abaddon, while in Greek he has the name Apollyon. Why would Donald Trump venerate Apollyon? Why would Donald Trump, the Christian man, have these paintings in his Trump Tower, in his suite? I'm not faulting him for having gold. I'm not jealous of him. But I do find fault with him continuing to have pagan symbols that are directly opposed to Yahweh, our Redeemer. Apollyon is Apollo. His name in Greek means destroyer. The Egyptians associated him with Horus. Remember the eye of Horus on the pyramid? So the question is, why would the alleged Christian man, President Trump, continue to have the totally pagan god Apollo painted on his ceiling? And plus, he has other pagan symbols in his suite. I could have showed you several other pictures. I didn't want to take the time. Don't try the excuse that he's a baby Christian. He knows full well what he's doing. And he's had plenty of Christians give him advice. At best, he's attempting to ride the fence. By the way, that's a real popular thing, riding the fence. Riding the fence. You can't ride the fence with Yahweh. You've got to be on one side or the other. In fact, Yeshua made the statement in Revelation chapter 3, talking about the church of Laodicea. He said, you're lukewarm. He said, you ought to be either cold or hot. But you're lukewarm, and I'm going to spit you out of my mouth. Yahweh requires you and I to be hot in order to be part of his protected group. We have to be hot. That's not a sexual term. One of Trump's so-called spiritual advisors need to tell him to get off that fence and be wholeheartedly toward Yahweh. Well, we've gone far enough for today. We'll plan to finish this next Sabbath, hopefully. Remember, Yeshua made this statement here in Matthew 24. False messiahs, false prophets will arise and perform great signs and wonders to lead astray, if possible, even the elect. Take note, I have told you in advance. So what's that saying? If a person is not the elect, they're going to be deceived. That's what it means. We must not blindly follow. I tell you every Sabbath day, be a Berean. Look it up for yourself. See if I'm preaching to you the truth. You know, it's really easy to overlook flaws in people because we like their charisma or their personality or maybe even the values they say that they have. That happens in marriages all the time. And what happens most of the time, it ends in heartache and divorce because of this right here. Beauty is skin deep, character goes to the brain, and spirituality goes to the heart. The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? So be a Berean. Until next Sabbath, Shabbat Shalom.